a lot of the characters and maybe some of the situations were based on people you actually had encountered in Portland. And to what degree did you envision it as this sort of portrait of that?
Well,
scene?
it was part Shakespeare. It was part based on Mike Parker, who was a friend who was on the streets, and he sort of inspired and informed us like exactly what that meant. It was inspired a little bit from already Malinoche, Walt Curtis sort of being a street poet in Portland. It was inspired by Portland, the size of Portland, the type of kind of frontier street life that still existed in the city in that period, like in the 80s. And it was inspired by one of the characters that was in Malinoche, Ray Manji, and his young nephew, Little George. They were sort of the idea behind My Own Private Idaho, which was sort of an Angelo, my love kind of story. Little George being like Angelo, Ray Manji being his older brother. So it was coming from lots of different places in the city, in Portland.
How on earth did you imagine that? Again, you could get a studio or or any kind of funding for that. It's I mean, in every possible way, it's like a red flag. For anybody
there was
to
a lot of
fund it,
red flags. I don't know. I definitely, like, when I wrote the final draft, I sat down and just wrote exactly what I wanted, which I think is what a lot of filmmakers do anyway. I mean, I think my favorite filmmakers were always doing that, in particular Fassbinder. I think today Wes Anderson is just like, he's just writing what he wants. He's not considering, what's going to be sellable.
But that said, you ended up deviating from the script quite a bit, right, during the shoot? Deviating from the script? Like, weren't there a lot of kind of spontaneous...
Well, sometimes the screenplay was very short. Like, there would be, exterior cemetery day. Scott Favor is burying his father. Across the way, he can see Bob Pidgeon being buried by the others, and that's the thing. And it's a whole 3-minute scene or something. So it was condensed, but I don't think we weren't really sort of doing the same kind of thing that we were doing on Drugstore Cowboy, which was going off the script and finding new dialogue. Mostly because River was very into that. Keanu was less into that, so it was like it pretty much stuck with the screenplay, with what was written. There were certain ad libs, I think, but yeah.
But I guess maybe deviating was the wrong word, but the script in some ways was a framework for the production process to then sort of find the nuance in it and find the detail.
Yeah, and we would spontaneously do extra things. I think some of those that James Franco made his own version of the movie from the outtakes called My Own Private River, which uses a lot of the things that we would do sort of like when we were downtown, like shooting on the street. We would just find things, and they weren't really acting things. They were more like atmospheric pieces. And the time lapse in the beginning of the film is Eric and I really just going out. He had a camera that he had developed. He had sort of fixed up a 35 camera with a intervalometer, and so he was just taking these intervalometer time lapse pieces, just sort of not really for the movie. It was for himself, and I think I was taking stills. We were just on a photo excursion out in the country, and we were talking about My Own Private Idaho. And as soon as we started filming it, we kept doing the intervalometer things until the producer, Laurie Parker, started questioning why we were doing the time lapse. And we didn't really have a good answer. In the end, it becomes like his inner world that he goes into between, when he falls asleep and wakes up somewhere else. But we didn't know that's where it was going to go. So we stopped doing so much time lapse, and we were doing a lot of it. So she didn't want to pay for all the extra footage if we weren't going to use it. So that kind of started without the film, not being in the film, and it grew up to be in the film.